Hi, Monica Plemikos here from the Mindflex Revolution podcast. As an anxiety relief specialist and author, I know that there's an increasing demand to meet the mental health challenges in the modern workplace. It just seems like everyone nowadays is stressed or anxious to a degree, and it's showing up at work. This podcast offers therapeutic insights, evidence-based strategies and research. We speak to specialists, authors, individuals to help you navigate topics like stress, anxiety, burnout, and loss of focus, and what you can do about that in the workplace. There isn't a one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to recovery and well-being. That's why we bring you a whole range of holistic therapies to choose from, early intervention techniques to equip you with the options to foster a healthier, more supportive work environment. Whether you're an individual seeking to elevate your own well-being, or an organisation that's looking to cultivate a more resilient, productive and happier workforce, stay tuned to the Mindflex Revolution podcast, your go-to resource for unlocking the powerful strategies to reclaim your well-being and thrive.
Attention forward-thinking leaders. Is your organization committed to cultivating a culture of holistic wellness? MindFlex Global Platform understands the value you place on your people and is here to support your journey. Dive into our free trial today and discover a world of well-being solutions tailored to elevate your team's mental, emotional, and physical health holistically. MindFlex, because a thriving workforce is a successful workforce.
So hello and welcome, Peter. Thank you for being here.
Oh, look, thank you for inviting me along to partake in this.
So I guess before we get into getting into some of those initiatives that you've been involved in, that obviously speak to your leadership and your leadership style, I'd like for the listeners to kind of get a bit of an understanding of your roles and all of the different pies.
Yeah, I do partake in the odd pie from time to time, so it's probably appropriate that that you assimilate it to that. But 4 or 5 major roles that I undertake. I think first and foremost is family, being a father, a partner, and mentor, and even grandfather actually, which is pretty exciting. Being part of a family and a broader family network and supporting not only, my direct siblings but nieces and nephews and cousins and broader extended family. So that's my primary and most important role, and one that perhaps presents some challenges at times, but also presents the greatest opportunity for just love and connection. So I think that's number one. Being the managing director of my own business with a business partner, we have about 43 staff and a number of subcontractors as well that we engage with regularly. So presents, a broad spectrum of humans and human behaviours and human wants and desires and needs, but also, some great learning opportunities and some great support opportunities as well. I'm the president of the Glenorchy District Football Club, which is one of the major clubs down south in Tasmania here. Incredibly long and proud history, and of recent times has gone through some difficult periods, both financially and both player numbers and culturally. And I've also undertaken some advocacy and some sort of support work in Tonga primarily, but with a broader view to the South Pacific nations more generally in relation to water, which has become my passion and my drive and my motivating force for a lot of the stuff that I do, particularly with my own business.
Absolutely. And if you can give us a bit more background of your business in terms of water and how, before obviously we get into how that water project come up, but obviously you do have an extensive history in that area. So if you can just talk to that for a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, ironically, my first foray into the working force was fixing chocolate machines at the Cadbury's chocolate factory. From there, I sort of evolved into working more within the water sector. I worked at the major bulk water supplier down here in Tassie, at Hobart Water, for about 10 years. I came back from a trip overseas, seen a part-time job there for 3 months, thought I'll do that and go back overseas. And 10 years later, I decided that I'd try going out on my own and setting up my own business, because I found that, look, water infrastructure, building infrastructure that served the community was really, really important to me. There's a Tasmanian business that works for serving the Tasmanian community, and what we build not only serves us here and now, but our children, and hopefully our children's children. So I become passionate about it through evolution of that working. And so we work predominantly for the major company or major government authority down here called Taswater, that looks after Tasmanian water and sewer infrastructure. And so we do a diverse range of projects, some design and construct, some major and some minor ones where we put new services onto people's property. So a vast array of size and complexity in the projects that we run. And again, a lot of this happened through natural evolution, I suppose, as to where we are now and potentially where we want to be in the future. But it was driven by a desire to understand how water works. I'm fascinated with it. Ultimately, it's the primal source of our existence here on Earth as we currently are. And I describe it as incredibly smart but incredibly lazy. So it'll find a way to get out, and it'll find the easiest way to get out through its laziness. So I just become fascinated with it, and that sort of drove the foray into the business, but more over how we can find best ways to utilise and serve the community.
So if we're looking at the ways in which you've developed your leadership skills and tools over the years, what I'm hearing is that it's really come from passion and desire to want to know something intimately and to learn about it.
Yeah, look, absolutely. So we started off just with myself and pretty much another guy just got out of the pub and said, "Look, I'm starting a business. You want to come and have a go with me?" So
That's hiring 101.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's exactly how you start a business. It's go to the pub, have a few drinks with a bloke, and say, "Let's go and have a go at this." But we went and did our first job and just continually evolved, and it became evident that over time, a passion and a desire to do things really well needed that same commitment with the people that you work with. And so it was about instilling in them ownership and a belief that what they did made a difference. And again, over time and evolution, it also became important to understand what would make them be inspired to take that ownership, and what would make them be inspired to take pride in what they do. And it was basically to understand them as people, but also understand that whilst we might have a common goal and we might have common drivers, and that we are uniquely different, and we all have moments in time that push our buttons in different ways. And it's about finding how we navigate through that together in a supportive way, not an overbearing way. Understand that no matter how committed we are to something, no matter how passionate we are and how driven, there will be times that things just go a little astray for us. And what I might see as astray, or what they might see as astray, can be vastly different. That has been and will continue to be one of the biggest learning outcomes.
And look, that's the crux of that empathetic leadership style, being able to see from others' perspective. In an organization, everyone's going to have their own goals. Yes, the organization is going to have one central goal and many offshoots of that. But in terms of those key players within the organization, everyone's got their own position description. Yeah, and so by default, you're going to have your own your own goals and your own KPIs that you're working towards. And by default, of course, you're going to have conflicts in terms of who's got the priority in terms of meeting those at any given time. That's natural. So being able to kind of be flexible and flex between perspectives, between hierarchy of priorities, and at the end of the day, being able to understand all different levels of priorities from perspectives is definitely a winning formula.
It's really interesting, challenging and rewarding, having those conversations with people sometimes. And I'm not someone who likes conflict. In fact, I avoid it pretty much at all costs wherever possible. But what I don't avoid, and what I've grown into over time, is to have an open and honest conversation with someone around just, how they feel and their perspective and their perception of an event that took place. And then stripping it back to, okay, this is the emotional component of it, and this is the factual component of it. So if we park the emotion for a moment and we just deal with the facts as they lie here currently, there was, an altercation between two people, and what were the facts? He asserted this and you perceived it as this. So we'll deal with the facts of the matter, and then we'll deal with the emotional component. And mostly, once we understand the factual components, the emotion tends to subside, and we can move and navigate through that interaction and that challenge much more civilly and much more quickly, and with a much better outcome as well. So, they're some of the techniques that I've learned over time, and thanks to chatting to someone like yourself, and to chatting to other business mentors and experienced people through our industry. And I found that being able to understand that, and understand that these are how we are wired as humans, has helped significantly in diffusing some situations that could become volatile into an outcome that at the end of the day, both people walk away feeling that they've achieved their goals, and I don't know if it's too much to say feeling that they've won, but feeling that they've had their point heard and their
Exactly.
emotion has been considered, but moreover, they understand it from a factual basis as well. So.
And look, we know that some individuals require more validation. They want to be heard, and other individuals are more about the how-to, and let's get in and do something. And neither's right or wrong. It's just a difference. And so when you come in acknowledging both those types of needs and wants, then you're covering bases.
Someone may require to just feel validated in having their point across, and someone may want, a defined factual outcome as a resolution. And it's about, understanding, having the conversations, listening, and working. And sometimes it doesn't happen on the first conversation, doesn't happen on the second conversation, probably sometimes doesn't happen on the third conversation. So it's being prepared to take the long road, to not expect that every time that you have that conversation you'll get you'll get an outcome, but moreover understanding that you may get that outcome, but over time that person may have that issue rise again. And whilst we think it's put to bed and it's buried deep within the psyche, at some point and some trigger and some emotional event that may surface again. So it's being prepared to say, well, I know we dealt with it, and I know we had a conversation about this, but I now understand it. It's important to you again, so we have to consider it again, and we have to have another conversation.
So what do you think it's done for retention, staff retention, team performance, and cohesion in having this approach?
I think statistically within the construction industry that we work in, our staff retention rate would be considered very high. I think it's because we have a very personal approach to the way that we manage people. So I think from a retention rate, it's done well. From a team performance and cohesion rate, we've done a significant amount of work on that. So we've run programs from what's called From Good to Great. So how do we make a good team great? We've run programs from a company called Longitude 6 that make it that they're called Fit for Work, Fit for Life, where we engage exercise physiotherapists, and we undertake initial assessments, and we work with people on a one-on-one basis to identify potential soft tissue or musculoskeletal issues, and look at their job roles and how we best manage them around that. So we engage and we make them feel valued and because they are, and that so those sort of little things work. We also raise the issues at toolbox meetings that we have on a monthly basis about what we call car park conversations, and
Nice.
what's a positive car park conversation, what's a negative car park conversation. We also, part of one of the census programs we did was the way we frame things. So they can have a green frame that looks at positivity, and a red frame that looks at issues, and so a lot of our doors have got green tape around them for a green frame, and so little subtle reminders such as that look assist, but ultimately it's also understanding that people are different, and there are some people that are motivated by scandal. They're motivated by gossip. They're motivated by that. So we understand it.
The juice.
The juice, yeah. So we understand that we seek utopia, and we seek a beautiful a beautiful harmonious workplace. But as much as we seek it, we've got to be realistic about it as well, and understand that everything we do is a step in the right direction, but regardless of that, there'll be challenges and there'll be conversations and there'll be reminders that have to happen along the way as well.
So drama, the need for drama is one of those human needs that we have. So we can exercise drama through, watching a drama on TV. That's a, nice and healthy way to exercise drama, right? But we can also stir up some drama and some excitement. And unfortunately, sometimes the workplace is that place that's stirred up.
Well, I mean, let's face it, for the majority of us, the workplace is where we spend most of our interactive time, most of our social time, most of our connective time. So if we are motivated by a little bit of scuttlebutt and a little bit of emotion, and that's what helps get us through the day, then of course, even if we don't purposely set out to do it, that's going to happen. So it's about identifying, the people that are more likely to have those behaviours and people that are less likely to have those behaviours, and building teams not only based on skill set, but based on emotional connection and emotional drivers and values. So, we look at, on this particular job site, we need a truck driver, we need an excavator driver, we need a plumber, we need a supervisor, and we need 2 labourers. So skill set is one way of identifying what we need there. And then we need to identify, well, within that skill set that require, what are some of the values that these people have? What are some of the motivators that these people have? And trying to find the right mix and balance of skill set, values, and motivation to make the team work.
That's cut and paste across all domains and all industries. You need to have some of those basics in place in terms of looking at values. Yes, you do need to look at skills, but you need to have values and how individuals work together, because that's what will lead to that teamwork. Yeah. If the individuals aren't working together, there isn't teamwork.
And look, one of the things that we were very focused on early days is, performance reviews and remuneration linked to performance reviews. So we got, we saw that as a good way to improve productivity, improve the profitability of the organisation. And so we looked at KPIs and to say, look, if you achieve these particular competencies, you become more valuable to the organisation. If you can obtain these particular licenses, you become more valuable. And it was very much skills-based and competency-based, where we found over time that it probably didn't have the effect that we were looking at. And we've moved to more values-based KPIs. So we say, look, these are the values that the business has, and these are the values that can assist us driving the business forward. And we've done a little bit of work with everyone in identifying those values. And off the back of that, when we have performance reviews and that now, it's more about give us examples of how you've demonstrated this particular value or that particular value. And what it does, it puts the values, behaviours at the forefront of mind. And it means that what we get is people that understand the benefit of the value and the benefit of, a good social interaction and behaviour. And yeah, absolutely, competencies and skill sets are a requirement and they complement that. But values-based and emotive-based performance seems to get better buy-in, seems to make people more driven, and it seems to be more rewarding. Something we've noticed over time as well.
Yeah, and that comes with practice, doesn't it? It comes with the experience. And so when we're talking about leadership and particularly empathetic leadership, it's not an overnight thing. It's not something that you just kind of flip the switch on and just develop. There almost is a need to see yourself in a place where I actually need to develop this, to then go ahead and investigate, explore, learn, try on, rinse, repeat, to then be able to get to an outcome where you can say, yeah, look, I've tried this, and this is actually what works for me. It works for them, works for the greater organization at a whole. I'm just wondering for you if you've ever, caught yourself in a moment where you're trying to find the right balance between being empathetic and courteous, your understanding of an individual, but also then trying to maintain those professional boundaries. I'm wondering how you kind of navigate that.
Yeah, often, very often, and it is a challenge, and it is something that absolutely takes lived experience, because once you start to invest emotionally enough to understand the motivators and the drivers of people, you feel you develop a certain connection to them. And then from time to time, when they demonstrate actions that are outside of those values and behaviours, and that's how do you then deal with that? Because firstly, you take it personally, and it's an emotional reaction that you have, and it's how to identify that's the case, separate that, put the emotion aside, and then deal with the facts of the matter to say, look, we've had conversations around values and behaviours. We understand, what is acceptable and what's not acceptable. And for some reason, at this particular time, that you've gone outside that, and then what are the drivers for that, and how do we rectify it, and how do we put steps in place to allow you to identify, look, I'm about to step outside what's been agreed and what I've signed up to here. So what steps can we put in place to prevent it, rather than react to it and have consequences off the back of that. So prevention is always the best cure, as I say. But again, spur of the moment thing, some stress outside of work, some tiredness, some relationship things, some things, and we react instantaneously. So it's not about the punishment per se, that it's about the understanding.
Yeah, and knowing that you're learning as well. Like, yeah, right. It's never ending.
Yeah.
And there's this dance, there's to and fro. It's kind of like that pendulum. And you swing in one direction, and sometimes you swing too far, and you have to come back and bring it back a little bit, so that you can find a sweet spot where you can move forward.
Yeah, and there's times when you've got to just own up and say, look, I stuffed that up.
Yeah.
And I've had to have those conversations with people before and go back and say, look, I know we talked about this, and I know this is what I said, and I know this is the way I acted, and I mucked it up. I said, I'm not perfect. You know, I from time to time have the same emotional stresses and drains that you have. And on this particular occasion, I didn't get it right. And on reflection, I think this is, you know, how I should have dealt with it. And I think if we both worked a bit more collaboratively at this, then we probably would have got a better outcome. And you know, it's being mature enough to have that, being honest enough with yourself, because you know, 99.9% of the time, on reflection, we know whether we've handled something well or whether we've done a good job, and we would always probably do different things differently on reflection because hindsight's brilliant. But you know, if you did it to the best of your ability and how it went, and from time to time, you just got to went, nah, I got that one a little wrong.
As we all do. And yes, there's wisdom, isn't there? Like if we look back 20 years back in the career, you go, oh geez, some of the things that I've done kind of cringeworthy, but that comes with wisdom and experience and education and everything that we're discussing today.
And I think it's a desire also, and this is very much footy speak, to be the best version of yourself. So you know you can be this particular version or this particular version, and it's a desire to be the best version of yourself. Now that might not be the best person, or it might not be everyone's best person, but it's a desire to say, well, look, this is who I am, and I'm living who I am.
And that's irrespective of your job title.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we do give so much value as well to what we do, and I can put my hand up and say, "Yep, I'm not sure what I'd be doing if I wasn't doing this." Right? You go out and you meet people, and the first question they ask is, "Yeah, so what do you do?" You know, so we do place so much emphasis on our title, on our role, on our position, but there are those characteristics and those morals and values and those questions that we all have to ask ourselves as people first and foremost, and that we can also bring forward into our roles and in our work family and community and organization.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is that self-value and that self-worth that is preeminently important, because you know I can sit here and say, look, I'm a company director or whatever, but I'm supported very much by a truck driver, and I'm supported very much by a labourer. Now, you know, I would hope that they have the same self-value and self-worth when they say, I'm a labourer that supports this particular company, or I'm a truck driver that supports this particular company, because, you know, and I always remember the story of when the president went to visit NASA, and walked up to, you know, they've got incredibly important people there and scientists that are doing some of the most cutting edge, you know, technical stuff. And, you know, the cleaner was there mopping the floor, and you know, he said, well, what are you doing? He said, I help put rockets on the moon. You know, it's exactly right, because without that, every part of it, that's just not going to happen. So yeah, it's about empowering people to have that self-belief and that self-worth. Yeah, taking just one or two moments. And look, I'm a pretty poor communicator with people. I'm a pretty poor social interactor.
I think you're doing pretty well.
Yeah, but naturally, I suppose, you know, my natural persona would be not to have that, but it's to step outside that, to have, you know, a conversation for just a moment or two, and listen for just a moment or two to who that person is, pat them on the back, and acknowledge them for being exactly that person.
Yeah, and that goes back to that, you know, validating and also promoting that self-esteem, that confidence. I guess further to that, we've definitely placed a bit more. We've acknowledged of how important that is in the workplace, and having confidence and self-esteem and boosting confidence and self-esteem within the workplace. What's been your experience in terms of how have you seen that evolve, or how have you seen supporting people around you in your many projects
Yeah.
To develop their own sense of self-esteem and confidence?
That's probably, one of the most tough and challenging things that we need to consider in life and in projects, particularly and in workplaces. And it's about working beside, not working above or working below the person that you're working with. So it's to say, look, we are a collective here, and we are in this together. And whilst I may have this job title, and whilst I might facilitate this particular role, that is no different to you have that job title and you facilitate that particular role. So we are all team members. At some point in time, you have to make decisions because that's part of my role and my team member expectations and obligations. But yeah, it's certainly about building a mentality of working beside the person next to you in whatever shape or form that is. I think with all of this, it's a desire to actually want to do it, because it's pretty easy to sit here and speak, articulately, and just to have a conversation that we're having right here and now, which is a mature, educated conversation. But to then actually have the desire to go and do what we've spoken about is pretty tough, and it's not easy.
And no doubt there's been times when you've been at a loss in terms of what to do.
Yeah, well, look, that comes back to that self-value and self-belief, because there are many times when you go, I've done all I can, and what do I do? And how do I go about this? And no one seems to be helping me. No one seems to be listening. No one understands. It's lonely at the top sometimes, and and we face those mental battles and those mental challenges. And it's about, we use that word resilience significantly. We use it a lot, but it is about resilience. And again, I learnt so much of this from my daughter about switching your mindset. So the ability to, when we are in those spaces, to live it, to breathe it, to own it, to understand it, but at some point to go, right, I'm now flipping my mindset, because that mindset is no longer where I need to be to achieve what I want to achieve, and not just for myself, but for those around me. Because I also believe we have an aura and an energy that exudes from us. And if I'm in that mindset, and no matter what I say or how I act or what I do, people see through it, and they are drawn into your aura, just as like you're drawn into theirs.
And it's leading by example. If you are kind of like, oh, this sucks and this is not working and on a day-to-day basis, then you are leading and you're demonstrating exactly what those people around you will follow you. It is a very simple math equation. I definitely hear you in terms of there's that point that you must come to when stuff does hit the fan, where you kind of go, oh, I've just got to check myself here.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. I've got to check what I'm putting out. I've got to check what's going on internally and make a conscious choice and decision to redirect and to put out what do I actually want instead.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's not being afraid to talk to someone, and it's not being afraid to have a conversation, and it's not being afraid to put your hand up and say, look, I'm doing it a bit tough at the moment, and I know I'm supposed to be the leader, and I know what I portray and is the expectations of others. But it's about reaching out. As I've done, I've reached out to someone like yourself, and we have monthly catch-ups, and we have monthly chats and all that. And for the majority of the time, I'm on top of the world. But it's not about just doing it because when you're low, you do it. You need to do it when you're high, because it needs to become a habit, and it needs to be accepted, and it needs to be one of your strategies to maintaining being on a high, is because there's a support mechanism there, and that just having a chat with someone may even reinforce that, look, you're doing okay. So why wait till you get to a point where you're not doing okay, because it's much harder to fix something that's broken than it is to fix something that's got a little dent or a little way. Yeah.
And so, like, obviously, supporting the leader and having that infrastructure so that you're supported and that you can support others is what I'm hearing. And further to that, it's having that constant and never ending kind of improvement philosophy and mindset. There is always more to learn. There is always more to improve. And how can I do that for myself? But also how can that actually filter down, and how can I support the organizations and the members, because that's going to make your life easier as a leader too, if
Oh,
everyone's supported in their own way.
absolutely. Look, and again, we're all unique and we're all different in what motivates us and what drives us. And look, and for some people in their own business, seeing more profitability might be that motivator and that driver that does it. For some people, it may be seeing, the people within the workforce happy and smiling and that sort of stuff. And for me personally, it's giving to other human beings my knowledge and my connection and commitment to them. So that's the sort of thing that led me to these projects of water and stuff like that. So people will say, "Oh, I'm so thankful," and all that, and I genuinely mean it when I say this. Look, I get way more out of this than you ever get.
So let's get into how you got into this water project in Tonga. How did that all come about?
Destiny, evolution, and I think one of the things that drove me when I first entered into the water industry was, just as I said, how important it is that it's the substance of life, and that sort of thing. And from very early on, I had a vision to help less developed nations experience, access to safe, clean, reliable water. And over time, when I started my own business, I met a guy that I used to work with out at Cambridge when I was fixing chocolate wrapping machines, and he was from Tonga, and we met in a football sense. His son was playing in a grand final. My daughter was playing in a grand final. We got talking about, well, what do you do now? And he'd gone from helping fix chocolate wrapping machines to psychology. And I said, look, I'm working water now. I've a bit of a passion. He said, look, Tonga's got huge water issues. He said, I'm heading over there in the end of next month. I said, I'm coming with you. So yeah, just went with him and got to know the people, the culture, and the challenges that they face, and it just led from there, really.
So for you, what was that driving force or motivation for you to go, yes, absolutely on board, I'm there?
Well, I certainly wasn't bored.
Yeah.
I just, I don't know, it was something that was within me, something I felt that I needed to do, and something that, as I said, I was in the water industry because I loved it. I had a desire and I wanted to learn more. I wanted to experience more. I wanted to see more. And, it was fascinating the way that water is collected and harvested over there, on an island in the middle, very much in the middle of the South Pacific Ocean. It supports about 100,000 people on Tonga Tapo, the main island, and that sort of thing. And there's no rivers, there's no streams. I think it's about 46 meters from sea level to the highest point of elevation over there. So there's no mountains or things, but it's all aquifer, and the fresh water lays on top of the salt water. You dig down, depending on where you are in the island, to a certain depth, and you'll find it. And
So what were the main challenges that you saw over there?
the main challenges were, I suppose, from a governance point of view, which was ironic because it was very similar to the governance that had happened here in Tasmania, and the reform that happened in Tasmania, where you had a bulk water authority and then councils managing the reticulation and distribution. And they've got Tonga Water over there, which is sort of the bulk water that supplies to the main city, and then all of the villages manage their own water supply. So governance was the first thing. Financial resourcing was the second thing. The economic environment, the economic challenges that they face. And thirdly was the fact that they are separate villages when you go out of there, and there's no common approach to it all, and there's no general major strategic plan of how everyone works together. They all do incredibly good work, and one village will have an incredibly good guy at this area. The other village might have an incredibly good guy at this area, and the third one might have an incredibly good couple of people in other areas. But yeah, there's no coordination of defining those skill sets into a consolidated approach. The other thing, we talked a little bit about values and motivation before. They all obviously really, really value water, and they're all incredibly motivated to have reliable and safe access to it. So from that point of view, it's quite refreshing. You don't have to talk about values or motivation or a desire, to do the right thing or a good thing. But and more broadly on a global sort of scheme is the fact that you have rising sea levels, which diminishes the amount of fresh water that's able to sit on top of the sea. So we think we think of rising sea levels. It starts to encroach on the land, and but before that happens, the access to fresh water is diminished, because as the sea level rises, the salinity rises through that fresh water, and that layer gets thinner and thinner. So there's that, and there's the fact that those people, perhaps the way that the society lives and the industry and all that over there, pollute our global environment the least, but yet appear to be paying the highest price for it. So from a moral perspective, it just made me ask some deep questions.
So obviously, in our society, we just turn on a tap and it works, right? And we don't really give 2 seconds to figure out where it goes or where it comes from, right? What did you see in terms of the conditions in Tonga with regards to how water worked or didn't work?
One of the significant examples of that was a little village that we went to where there's 140 houses at the village, and then there's a school that has 360 odd students. So the pump is inadequate, and the storage reservoir is inadequate for the amount of people there. So the pump pumps 24 hours a day and slowly fuels the storage. So there's enough water at 6 o'clock in the morning, they can turn the valve on to feed all of the township. So people have water from 6 till 9 o'clock, the school starts. So they turn the water off to the township so as the children in the school can have water. So 140 houses, and some of those are elderly, some of those don't have access to the standards of living that we have here, but they accept that water is turned off so as the school children can have water. Now that water feeds the school till 3 o'clock. School finishes, they turn the valve off to the school.
Wow.
And then they turn the valve back on to the households. So from 3 o'clock till about 10 o'clock at night. And then at 10 o'clock, they turn the valve off to the town again. And the guy, this is a manual valve, he just has to drive out there, turn the valve, and they let the reservoir fill up again overnight. And then the same process, 6 o'clock in the morning, goes back out, turns it back on. And that's been going for 18 months over there. They're desperate to have a little pump and do
Absolutely.
stuff. And another example was went to Hapai, which is another island off the side there, and they had a pump. They had a reservoir, and the pump was adequate. The reservoir was adequate, but the pump broke down, and they couldn't fix it. So they heard I was there. They heard a little bit about water, and I was at the beach, and these 7 or 8 big guys on the back of a ute turn up and say, "Oh, is that you?" And I think, "Oh no, this might not end very well." And I said reluctantly, "Yes, that's me." I said, "Oh, we've heard about you. Can you come and have a look at our pump?" And I said, "Oh, look, I don't have a lot of time, but absolutely I can." And so we went out. It was out in the forest a bit. It was raining. It was slippery and wet and all that sort of thing. And anyway, so we had to pull this pump out, and they had just a chainsaw there, and we cut in these big sticks to lift it higher and higher and higher, and we got it out. And then I said, "Oh, look, I need 2 of these footprints to undo it," and they only had 1 in that village, so I had to drive to the next village, get another spanner, come back, and then we undid it. And I said, "Oh, I need a bit of oil," but we only had a bit of chainsaw oil there to lube it up with, and put it back together. And I said, "Don't drink the first bit, obviously, that comes out." And anyway, turned it on, and these massive big guys were just brought to tears, and it was it's incredibly emotional. 18 months they'd had 1,000 litre drum on the back of their ute that they'd gone to the next village and brought back and give to one house every day. So for one day you had 1,000 litres, and then you wait a couple of weeks, and then they'll bring another 1,000, and it was just incredible. Their physical strength, their mental resilience, but inside they were just just warm, loving, and people like us, and to be part of that, as I said, I got way more out of that than anyone else can ever get.
And so clearly there's, you're able, it's fantastic that you're able actually to do something on the day, getting, rolling up your sleeves and actually getting in and doing the work there and then. And there's also a documentary as well that's recorded your time, and that continues to document your journey there and the infrastructure that's being built out.
Yeah, so I on about the 2nd or 3rd time, there's a local guy here that does a bit of filming. I said, "Look, do you want to come with me? I think this will be amazing experience." So he come along and brought it back and started to pull a bit of stuff together. And he said, "Look, I think there's something really special here. I want to do some more with this." And I said, "Look, mate, anything that can raise awareness, that can, have a greater understanding for the challenge that these communities, not just in Tonga, but in Samoa and in Vanuatu and all the South Pacific nations are facing, then absolutely, I'm supportive of it." So we've been chatting with some local producers and stuff like that to see if
Wonderful.
something more broadly can get out there about it. And for instance, I sent a pump over when they had the volcano eruption, and they were lucky enough to be protected from the tsunami, but the ash laid on a lot of houses that rely on rainwater, and a lot of the pumps that are diesel driven and stuff like that got clogged up and ever. But the pump I'd sent over there at this particular village was kept on chuffing away, and everyone from neighbouring villages would be able to come and fill up their water from this pump that you'd sent over. And when I got there to hear that story, it was pretty amazing. And everyone was just, "Oh, how do we get one of these pumps out of this?" Is and King Lear, we call him, who looks after the water supply of Hawhawa, and he said he can't speak English at all or whatever that, but he'd learned enough to say, "This is a quality pump." That's what he gets. This is a quality pump. So yeah,
Fantastic. And look, I've seen a few of the clips from the documentary, and it was clear that culture played a huge part, making you feel welcomed, and also there was that exchange. So I'm wondering what kind of insights, that you're bringing back.
Again, as we talked earlier about that mindset of continual improvement, continual learning, to expose yourself to different cultures, different challenges, different environments like that, it is very helpful for it. And a couple of the things that I was exposed to over there, look, religion, they're very religious. So Sunday is a day for complete relaxation, family, religion, and feast. There's 6 days for work and 1 day for the Lord. That's what they say over there. So it's one of the only places in the world now that still Sundays are pretty much for family and religion and feast. So that was a bit about time management. No matter how busy we are, or no matter how overwhelmed we come from time to time, at some point we can choose to just say, "Hey, this is a time of relaxation. It's a time of family. It's a time of something." So it was a really eye-opening experience to say that was it. Again, about love and connection and family, very big part of their culture. We talk it here. We say how committed we are to our family and all that, and then we all go into our separate rooms. We all get on our phones and we all do that. And look, they have phones and all that over there, but they are much more comfortable all sleeping on the floor together in the lounge room than they are going into separate rooms and stuff like that. They're very much still family and community orientated. And going on some of the footy trips with them, you had to be very mindful of you'll have 10 or 12 of the boys and they'll always end up in the one room. They just like being together. It's very much a part of their culture. So to be exposed to that and to be a bit more understanding of look, it's okay to actually want to be with someone, and it's okay. It's not unmanly, because let me tell you, these guys are big. But to be emotionally and connected to someone is okay. So there's another big learning part of, and that made me a bit more empathetic, I suppose, with my relationship with coming back and chatting to some of the guys here.
And look, it also sounds like, all of these things are pertinent to well-being overall. So not only of an individual, but also of communities, of organizations, and larger structures as well. When you include things like rest, right?
Yes. Yeah.
When you include things like cohesiveness and bonding, knowing each other in different landscapes, that promotion of well-being is something that perhaps we've lost, or we've forgotten how to do, or we've kind of maybe pushed aside at the sake of promoting other goals or agendas or priorities. So having a revisit and re-looking at, well, how do other cultures do well-being? How do other cultures do life? How do other cultures do successful families?
Yeah, and it becomes more about understanding it's not individualism that gets you through.
Yeah.
It's community and connection that gets you through. Yeah, that was one of the big things about this, and because again, as business leaders, or as whatever you define successful as, but as successful people, and that it is more focused on the individual to do that and to get there. And we lose that fact that it's because of the support of people and the connection with people. It's still possible to be a good leader and be successful and be all of those things and be connected and
Absolutely.
and be part of a community and part of a team. Yeah. So
And one would argue that it's a necessary component of that leadership.
yeah, and again, that is more the evolution of modernisation of culture and stuff like that. If you go back, I went to France a little while ago, and I went to a couple of places that Napoleon had, and I've become, as we all do, fascinated on things that we have real life experiences for, and the style of leadership and back then is significantly
Quite different.
Yeah, so what worked back then was very much more about individualism and that sort of stuff, and now it's uniquely different.
Absolutely, and thank goodness.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. So, look, Peter, before we finish up, how can people support the project?
I think just taking the time to become more aware of the challenges that South Pacific nations face in having access to safe, clean, reliable drinking water, becoming aware of the fact that everything that we do that doesn't support good environmental health has a potential to make it more challenging for people, in other less developed nations. The fact that, what we do as a society in our economic development can sometimes be a little selfish when we have opportunities to broaden that economic benefit through, greater distribution of wealth and that sort of stuff. And little things can make big differences to people. So yeah, so having that interest and that conscious and that understanding, and longer term, hopefully there'll be some opportunities that we can be advocates, to promote greater input by developed nations that are Pacific nations community to assist in ways potentially, around water.
Yeah.
Areas.
Fantastic. And we can definitely put some links in as well if people want to find out a bit more about the project or the documentary. So thank you so much, Peter, for sharing your time and your expertise. It's quite clear through our discussion today that, this is something that you've learnt along the way and will continue to learn.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll continue to make some mistakes, and I'll continue to hopefully learn from those and acknowledge those mistakes and continue to have a desire of continual improvement and continual learning and continual support for those around me, because there'll be times when I need to be supported by them. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and appreciate the experience. Another little learning opportunity along the way. So I appreciate it.